Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Together we chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verses 46 to 55.
किरीटिनं गदिनं चक्रहस्तम् इच्छामि त्वां द्रष्टुमहं तथैव तेनैव रूपेण चतुर्भुजेन सहस्रबाहो भव विश्वमूर्ते। श्रीभगवानुवाच मया प्रसन्नेन तवार्जुनेदम् रूपं परं दर्शितमात्मयोगात् तेजोमयं विश्वमनन्तमाद्यम् यन्मे त्वदन्येन न दृष्टपूर्वम्। न वेदयज्ञाध्ययनैर्न दानैः न च क्रियाभिर्न तपोभिरुग्रैः एवं रूपः शक्य अहं नृलोके द्रष्टुं त्वदन्येन कुरु प्रवीर। मा ते व्यथा मा च विमूढभावः दृष्ट्वा रूपं घोरमीदृङ् ममेदम्। व्यपेतभिः प्रीतमनः पुनस्त्वं तदेव मे रूपमिदं प्रपश्य। सञ्जय उवाच इत्यर्जुनं वासुदेवस्तथोक्त्वा स्वकं रूपं दर्शयामास भूयः। आश्वासयामास च भीतमेनम् भूत्वा पुनः सौम्य वपुर्महात्मा। अर्जुन उवाच दृष्ट्वेदं मानुषं रूपं तव सौम्यं जनार्दन इदानीमस्मि संवृत्तः सचेताः प्रकृतिं गतः। श्रीभगवानुवाच सुदुर्दर्शमिदं रूपं दृष्टवानसि यन्मम देवा अप्यस्य रूपस्य नित्यं दर्शनकाङ्क्षिणः। नाहं वेदैर्न तपसा न दानेन न चेज्जया शक्य एवं विधो द्रष्टुं दृष्टवानसि मां यथा। भक्त्या त्वनन्यया शक्यः अहमेवं विधोऽर्जुन। ज्ञातुं द्रष्टुं च तत्त्वेन प्रवेष्टुं च परन्तप मत्कर्म कृन्मत्परमः मद्भक्तः सङ्गवर्जितः निर्वैरः सर्वभूतेषु यः स मामेति पाण्डव.
You're muted, Janki.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Milind. Yes, I'm back to India after a nice trip in France. And what all happened? First, we had a retreat in Montgeron, and then we had a public talk at Paris, which you will be amazed to hear was a full house. They actually turned people away. We don't do that in India, right? They fill their seats, they turn you away. We are like, okay, come and sit down, sit on our lap. We'll be like that. But they just turned the people away. And then what happened? Then we had a Q&A in what is that? In the Luxembourg Park, which is a beautiful big park. And some people came there and had their questions. And then what happened? Brussels. There was a talk in Brussels, and then there was some slight interaction at Strasbourg. And that's it, I think. And of course, Nadeem had done a wonderful job in organizing all of this. And what else? Well, a merry time was had by all, and then we came back. So back to square one. And now, guess we're all working for the next event. You all know what is the next event, right? That is the next big event that is coming up, is the 1 month course, which we are going to do in July. So now all attention on that. And life goes on as usual. So what were we doing in the 11th chapter? Arjuna has just seen the Vishwarupa Darshana. He is inspired and terrified and requests for its removal. And then very interestingly, the Lord tells him that, look, no one but you can see this. In fact, it cannot be got by any kind of spiritual endeavor. And these last few verses which we are doing are very interesting because it seems to be blowing hot and cold. I mean, if you were to really read them, you would not know, is he saying that there is form or is he saying that there is no form? But if you read very carefully, you will see him in this very interesting sort of way, trying to establish formless worship. It's like he's blowing hot and cold, really. Remember in verse 53, he says, it cannot, 52, when he starts speaking, he says, this form is so hard to see, even the gods ever long to see it. Okay, so now it all depends on how you choose to interpret what he has said. If you say the gods ever long to see it, means what? You can say, as the pure people always want to merge with the self, you can take it to be that, with a strong sense of mukshatva. Or you can take it as those who are in heaven want this superlative enjoyment, whichever way you want to take it. But the fact of the matter is, the gods are always considered to be better than the humans. There's very little interpretation there. Everybody accepts the gods are better than the humans. And the gods cannot see this form. And he says, by no spiritual activity, not by Vedas, not by penance, not by gift, not by sacrifice, can I be seen like you have seen me. Isn't that interesting? Now, suppose we all did all the spiritual sadhana. Could we ever see the form as Arjuna has seen it? Why not?
Because it's not an objective thing. It's a subjective
Okay.
experience.
All
It's
right.
born out of Arjuna's mind.
Yes, because it is very specific to Arjuna. Nobody is going to see this other than him. Ever, not before, not after. Because it's a very specific product of Arjuna's mind. If you and I see a form, what will we see? If Naim sees a form, what will he see? Will he see what Arjuna saw? Will he see the battlefield and will he see the Kauravas? And what will he see? He may see the traffic of Bangalore. I don't know what he will see. If he sees a form, he'll see, oh, all the traffic of Bangalore or something.
Janki
Yeah.
even if we see, we will see a dot only. No, it is infinite. Infinite will appear as a dot.
You will not experience the dot, because imagine that you put a little dot, let's take your fingertip in front of your eye. You will experience it as the whole universe. You're not going to experience it as a dot, because you're going to experience it as before your eye. I mean, take the slightest thing and put it in front of your eye, it will cover your whole world. So any projection you have will be like that. So each one will see it in this way. What will Deepraj see? He will see, I don't know, all mathematical figures floating. I don't know what he will see. Each person, if they dream anything, they will dream their particular dream, and nobody else will ever dream that dream, because nobody else has that mind. So he says, I cannot be known. As you have seen me, no spiritual practice will give you that, which is really a matter of fact. Then he goes to verse 54. Verse 54. We did verse 54.
Yes, you've done.
Bhaktya shakyah ahamevam vidorjuna jnatum drashtum cha tatvena praveshtum cha parantapa bhaktya tvananyaya shakyah ahamevam vidorjuna jnatum drashtum tatvena praveshtum cha parantapa. Had we done 54? We had.
Yes.
Okay, so, but if you have single-pointed devotion, I may be seen like this. Interesting, right? But if you have single-pointed devotion, I may be seen like this. What did he just tell us? That I cannot be seen like this. I cannot be seen as you have seen me, because that is a very particular product of your mind. But I can be seen like this. Evam vidha, in this kind. Means you can also choose to see your own kind of projection, whatever it is. But if you choose to not go that direction, then you will know tattvena. Tattvena means by tattva, by the essence, by the reality. Praveshtum. You will enter, you become one with it. Now you can read the verses for yourself and you can interpret them for yourself. But if you are a student of Advaita, you can very clearly see what he's trying to say. He's saying that I may be known. In what sense? In the sense of the essence, and entered into, becoming one with it, like the river enters the ocean. If you just read the verses, it seems like he's blowing hot and cold. Like he's like, are you telling us there is a form, or are you telling us there's not a form? If you ask him that question, He's very nutcut, so he's played with this, because remember, different types of people read the text. Devotional read it, intellectuals read it. For the devotional, they require that sense of the form. And the intellectuals are not very happy with the sense of the form. So when the devotional read it, they will read it in a particular way. And when the intellectuals read it, they will read it in a different way. But if you are able to relate to the philosophy of Advaita, then man and God is just the same thing. Every human is divine, not a part of the divine, not separate from the divine, but is divine. If you're able to identify with that thought, if you're able to understand that the only way that all the various facts we know fit together is by accepting that much, then when you read it, you'll see what he means when he says, tatvena, in reality, praveshtum, to enter. Because what other way will you interpret these words? Like the dreamer becomes the waker. The dreamer doesn't see the waker. When he knows the waker in a sense, he has become the waker. So you move from knowing to being. The great difference in our life and his life is only so much. We know he is. We know many things, but we are not that thing that we know. And if we can somehow achieve this much, learn very little, but whatever you do know, you be that thing. If we can achieve so much, then we are better than knowing the whole worldwide things and continuing to be whoever we are. Because true knowledge is always change of the personality. So far, so good. Shall we go to verse 55?
Jankiji, so the reason for including seeing here is only to appease the devotional people. Is that right?
No, it is also true. You can be seen of. It is true that you can get these mental images, right? And you will get a mental image of whatever you are single pointed about. So it's not an untrue statement. He cannot make an untrue statement. So if you are single pointed about your God, whoever it be, Christ or Krishna or Allah, whoever you are, single pointed about, you could get a mental image about seeing that. That's a possibility. But when you know it in tatvena, tatvena means in tattva, in essence, then you enter it, you become it, you are one with it. It's not, nothing of what he's saying is incorrect.
Yes, thank you.
But it's very interesting how he words all these things. How do you tell a person Advaita and Dvaita in the same verse? I learned that from him. You know, it's like Mark Antony, he says, Brutus is an honorable man. You did all see at the Lupercal, I did thrice offer him the kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. But Brutus says he was ambitious. And if it was so, but Brutus says that he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. No, how Mark Antony. They're like brewing hot and cold. Is Brutus a good man or a bad man? Can't tell from that speech. But you can tell from the play. what Mark Antony's view of him was. So, same sort of, similar sort of construct. Can see a form, can't see a form. And Baba, make up your mind, can I see or I can't see? So answer is yes, you can see, but if you see anything, it's your mental projection. And therefore, only you will be able to see that particular thing. Anybody else can also project, in which case they will see their particular thing, whatever they have. Verse 55. Mat karma krut mat paramaha madhakta sanga varjitaha nirvaira sarva bhuteshu yasamameti pandava mat karma krut mat paramaha madhakta sanga varjitaha Nirvaira sarva bhuteshu yasamameti pandava. So if you are confused, is there a form, is there not a form? Because you're reading it like that. Whoever explains it to you will explain whatever they say. But then you may in your mind think whatever you are thinking, right? So is there a form, is there not a form? You may still not be very clear. To which he says this. Mat karma means for me, action for me. Mat paramaha, considering me as the supreme. Mad bhaktaha, who is devoted to me. So what do you think he's talking about? He's talking about what he has come to is, do your actions for me, consider me as supreme, be devoted to me. In other words, do your karma yoga, do your bhakti yoga, do your jnana yoga. Let's not worry whether there is a form or not a form, because it's really irrelevant. What we have to do stays the same, regardless of whether you are in Dvaita or Advaita. How does it matter? We still have to live a life of service. A life of service is when you genuinely want to do things for other people. Not as a hypocrite. Not as you're showing something. You genuinely want to be of some service. Otherwise, can you imagine? You work so hard to be of service. As a daughter-in-law does a lot for her mother-in-law. But all the time she's grumbling about it. Oh, I had to do this, I had to do that. Or she's very egoistical about it. I do so much. There'll be no daughter-in-law like me. In her own mind. And all that good karma is erased. What a waste, right? It's better to do a little bit wholeheartedly, fully, completely, than to do a lot and grumble about it, be egoistical about it, speak ill of the person you have served. It is considered to be one of the lowest forms of action. So, it's a very, very interesting sort of idea about living life. That what are we supposed to do? Okay, never mind all the high philosophy, never mind whether we are divine or not. But can we meet every single person we meet with the sense of, what can I do? Not every person, every circumstance, every situation. What is my contribution? How can I help? What can I do that will be of a value addition I live my life. Mat Paramaha. Mat Paramaha is consider me as the supreme. So what does it mean, consider me as the supreme? Consider me as the goal of your existence. What is the use of saying God is supreme? You say, okay, God is supreme means what? He's so powerful, he'll knock me down in a second. Is that what it means? It means I consider him supreme means I consider that every action that I shall perform, every thought that I shall think, every feeling that I will entertain will all be dedicated towards that goal that I have set for myself. In that manner, he becomes supreme in my life. Because every act, every emotion, every thought was only designed to reach him. If I want to become pure, why do I want to be pure? Because only in my purity can I reflect his greatness. Or which you can take as either way, either in the sense of a real reflection of him, or in the sense that you see your own face in a clear mirror. So in my purity will I know the truth. And hence every attempt to become pure has to be for knowing the truth. Mad Bhakta, he is devoted to me. Now, when I'm pursuing the truth with my intellect, it is possible that my mind is trying to go in a different direction. I may claim that the self is supreme in my life, but my mind is interested in all sorts of other things. So that's where devotion comes to help. When the mind is devoted to that divinity, means the mind loves the divinity. That way, all three equipment that we have are all functioning at their potential for the higher. So the body is engaged in constant service. Every single thing you do. The intellect is directing everything towards the self. And the mind loves the self. Mat karma krit. Mat karma, action for me. Mat paramaha, I am supreme. Mad bhaktaha, devoted to me. As you all are aware, whenever he says me, whenever any prophet uses the first person singular, he means whenever he says I, me, he's referring to the self. Because he is a prophet. Because he has understood that he is the self. There is no difference between any prophet, any God and us. Except for this one thing. They know, we don't. Only difference. Everything else is exactly the same. Now, how do you know that you are on the right path? How do you know that you're doing it correctly and one day you are going to find the self? How do you know? So he gives you not only the path, he gives the quality control, which is Sangha Vivarjitaha, Nirvairaha, Sarvabhutesha. If you are on the right path, if you're doing your Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga correctly, what are the results that you can expect? What will happen? Sangha Varjitaha. Sangha Varjita. Sangha, attachment, Varjitaha, without attachment. What is attachment? That I like something so very much. It's like that finger which is coming closer and closer to my eye. And so everything else is blocked out. That is called Sangha. I can't see anything because something is so close. So if I love my son so much, I can't see anything. You only see that sun, that finger is on the eye. If I love money so much, that finger is on the eye. So it blocks out my vision from anything. So Sangha Vivarjitaha means I have no particular attachment. And as a consequence of that, my vision is very clear. Attachment blurs the vision. Exactly like, suppose it's your own photograph and you bring it very, very, very close to your eyes. What will happen? You can't see anything else. Not only you can't see anything else, your own photograph very close to your eyes, what will happen?
It will be dark, black.
Yeah, you will not know what it is. That is why when you're in Sangha, when you're in attachment, you don't know what the object is. It's too close. And you don't know what anything else is because you can't see anything else. Isn't that a rather foolish way of living life? Would you do that in real life? If you see it as a physical thing, it's very easy. Suppose I hold something. Okay, I hold this book like this and I walk around everywhere. I can't read the book and I can't
Walk.
walk either. Right? So I'm bumping into things. Then I say, then what happens when I bump into something?
Hospitalized. Straight in the hospital.
Be in hospital, and I will have Vaira. Vaira means Vairipana. I will have enmity. You know, at the airport when we were coming back, it was I don't know, for some reason some chaos was taking place. I mean, not chaos. There was no chaos, but delay. So all as good citizens, all those who believe in queues and whatnot, we stood in a queue, and that queue went all the way to the back of the airport. We're just coming out. There's nothing to it, just coming out of the airport. Okay, so now we're just waiting there and waiting there and waiting there. And then the queue is not even moving. So, you know, yours truly cannot sit quietly. So then I went to find out what is the problem. What is the problem is that, you know, there are various belts, right? So people are picking up their luggage from their belt and joining the queue. They don't know that there's that queue and they don't care less. They are joining the queue. So this one is just standing. It's not moving. Everybody else is going through. And of course, there are some people who are deliberate and they're going through anyway. So first I went and stood at the corner and tried to prevent people from entering the queue in the middle. That didn't work because, like, who? So then I went hunting for airport officials to get them to handle this because it'll create a mess. So I caught hold of them and then they led me on to other people and whatever. So eventually our queue started moving. And they moved us quite fast. And then there was that other queue, remember, from the other belts. And there was ours. Now, our fellows had stood in that queue for over half an hour, 40 minutes. Now, as they came towards where this was merging, they were not willing to let the other guys go first. And the other guys did not know these guys had stayed there for 30, 40 minutes, you know, just standing there for no rhyme or reason. So these guys in our queue were really upset, and those other guys didn't know what was going on. So they merged. And what do you think happened? One went before the other, and then they started fighting with each other. Unfortunately, they were of the two different religions also. And now just think of what is going on. They are going to think, oh, you know, people of that religion, they always behave like this, number one. Oh, these people are so horrible, they're so bad. But actually, neither of the two were at fault. These guys had waited long enough. And these other guys were also coming in what they thought was their queue. And they saw no reason why this other queue should be given priority. Nobody had explained to them anything. So these two guys started fighting with each other, and so much very pana was created. So much enmity was created. There's nobody's fault. And yet, so much bitterness, so much anger. So obviously I have to do something. So again, I caught hold of that airport official and I told him, look, you are creating this mess. It's not their fault, those who are fighting. Because you guys have created this mess in the first place. I mean, I didn't tell him so frankly as I am telling you. But the important thing is always that when there is this very bhav, okay, when there is sangha, there is very bhav. What is sangha? That you can see no more than what you are attached to. What are you attached to in that queue that you have to move? What is he attached to that he has to move? Now you become enemies because both think I should be going first. Sangha and Vairi go together. The moment you have Sangha, you have an attachment, you have somewhere where there is enmity. So, what is spiritual growth? There's no Sangha, there's no Vairi. What is a Sangha doing? It is preventing you from seeing the whole situation. And when you are prevented from seeing the whole situation, you develop enmity towards others. So when you're free of attachment and free of enmity, sarva bhuteshu, sarva bhutanam, for all the beings, you know that you're on the right track. You have nothing negative to say about anybody. That doesn't mean that you do not see facts. That doesn't mean that your vision is blurred in terms of facts. It is so difficult to see a fact and to not have an emotion derived from that fact. Unnecessary emotion derived from that fact. Just see things for what they are, full stop. No emotion derived from it. One of the students told me about somebody talking negatively about somebody. Now, it's a fact that the person was talking negatively. But can we just say full stop after that? Okay, here's a fact, this person is talking negative. That's it. No emotion. No sangha, no way. And if we can grow to the stage where we just stay objective, we see things for what they are, and that's it. That's just it. Then we are growing spiritually. So you can see it as universal love. You can take it in that sense. Or you can take it in the sense of universal knowledge. Both mean exactly the same thing. Let's see. Somebody steals from you. This person stole from me. Can we just say that much? So, no, I don't want to say anything negative about that person. No, whether it's negative or not is what you are thinking about it. A fact remains a fact, right? So we get very confused and complicated about something. Just see things for what they are. No negative reaction, no negative emotion, but a complete capacity to see it for what it is. If you can do that, which means either complete love or complete knowledge, then you know that you're doing your karma, bhakti, and jnana correctly. And you'll also notice in this verse, he has completely dropped the idea of a form. He says, Saha Mam Iti. He comes to me. Right? Now he's given, for this verse at least, he's not doing that. He's very clear. He's come to me. He's dropped it completely. Big. Yeah, Bharat.
So when we say no emotional reaction, do we mean no affectation? Because mind will feel, right? Mind will react.
Yeah, now we are talking about spiritual development. So to the extent that you have no mind's reaction to that extent, you're spiritually grown. I know what you're talking about. There is one thing, which is that I feel, but my intellect stays on top of it. All right. So that is step one. That I'm very irritated with you, but my intellect can stay on top of it. That's step one. Step two is there is no irritation. Don't worry, there are no other steps. So don't meet this with such silence. Oh my God, this is step two, then what is step three? No, this is it. So don't be frightened. Only two steps. First step, you feel, but you're not affected. Second step, you don't feel any of the stuff anymore.
Yes, thank you. Quite a way to go to master the first step only.
For all of us, Bharat, we are all struggling with it. It's a human condition. But the fact of the matter is that we have grown more than we think we have grown. See, when I get agitated, I think, oh, look at me, I got agitated again. I've been studying Vedanta for 3 years and still I'm agitated. Okay, I can think like that. But I have to ask myself two questions. Number one, is this agitation the same as what it was 3 years ago? And number two, am I still functioning on that agitation? In most cases, your answer will be no. Because what has happened is, though we are still experiencing agitation, what has happened is the reason for that agitation has become more subtle. More subtle means more complex agitation. First, it would be I'm agitated because I turned on the tap in the morning and the water was not the right temperature. It was too cold or too hot, and I'm like very agitated about it. And then the challenges get a little more and little more and little more. So your experience, your personal experiences, see I'm agitated. But the fact is you're now agitated about a far more complex challenge. Get it?
Yes. Thank you.
So all of us need not feel very depressed about it, because each time it appears like, oh my God, look, no progress has been made. But that's not really true. And I was overhearing this when somebody asked Swamiji this question. He was at the dining table and this girl asked him this question that, I feel I've done Vedanta for a long time, but I don't see any results, she said. So what am I doing wrong? To which he said, when you look at yourself in the mirror every day, you don't see yourself changed. But if you see a photograph for 5 years ago, you see the difference. So similarly, because we are so much with ourselves, we don't realize that we've actually changed. Only when you remember a previous time. That is assuming, of course, that you are doing your sadhana, not just like, oh, I've been attending classes and doing nothing else. So the change takes place. It's very gradual, and sometimes we don't see it. And we don't need to see it also. What need is there to see it? We just have to progress. But just mental thing that it is happening. It's a mental solace that it is happening. Okay, so verse 55. Remember last time he told us that this form cannot be seen by any kind of spiritual practice. Then he says that if you knew it in essence, then you would enter into it. And how do you know you're getting to know it in essence? He's given again the full sadhana. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. Karma yoga means everything you do is an act of service. Then mat paramaha, considering me as the supreme. Jnana yoga, that means everything you do is directed towards self and is devoted to me. That means your mind loves it too. It's not just that your intellect is directing, but your mind loves it too. Then how do you know that you're on the right track? Nirvaira, sanga vivarjitaha, nirvairaha, sarva bhuteshu. You are without sanga and without vaira. Vaira is enmity. You have no sanga, no attachment, no enmity. And these two are interlinked. They're two sides of a coin. And such a person enters me. Rosie. How do we move from step 1 to 2, from feeling to no reaction? Nothing, Rosie, you don't have to do anything. As you grow spiritually, this is an automatic, what should I say? It's automatic. So just continue doing Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. He has given this as how do you know you're on the right path? So this is a quality control. You don't have to do anything about it. What you do is Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Always service, always devotion, always correct discrimination. Okay? Right? So if you do this, he reaches me, O Pandava. So he's dropped the form completely. And that is his final verdict, I would imagine, because this is where he ends with, right? So he says, by single pointed, okay, so let's just repeat what he said. Do we have time for a summary? So the Blessed Lord said, very hard to see this form of mine, which you have seen. Even the gods ever long to behold this form. Neither by Vedas, nor penance, nor gift, nor sacrifice can I be seen as you have seen me. But by single-pointed devotion, I may be seen like this, O Arjuna, known in reality and intent. So it's possible that you have some mental image, pursue the path, and eventually, with single-pointedness, you can read this in so many ways. Single-pointed can be the right single-pointed, in which case you reach and enter. Or the wrong single-pointed, which is you just create more and more mental images for yourself. That's clear, right? The right single-pointed and the wrong single-pointed. What is the right single-pointed and what is the wrong single-pointed?
The right one is which when you grow spiritually, and the wrong one is when you create mental images.
Okay, fine, but that's right. That's you giving the effect. But I'm asking, what is it?
Without attachment?
Without attachment. Okay, but we're trying to say the right and wrong. So you have to say what both are. What is the right one? What is the wrong one? How do you know that this is the right single-pointed and this is the wrong single-pointed?
Janki, if you are agitated means you are on right path. If not, is not.
If you're agitated, you're on the right path, you said?
No, if you are agitated means you are not on right path.
Not really. Because suppose, think of very simple example. You want to have a pastry. Your intellect says, sorry, it's not for you. Immediately you will face agitation. You will not face pleasure. So agitation cannot be taken as a yardstick.
When you do your 3 yogas and stay on the path.
Okay. You're attached to the goal
When you
itself.
do something wholeheartedly, with your mind, heart, and your complete true self, that would be the right path.
Well, you can be, I mean, this is not really telling us the difference. And anybody doing anything, ask Osama bin Laden, he will say, I did it with my mind, my heart, and my true self. That doesn't make him correct. That's what he wanted to do, that's what he did. What is the difference? The right single pointed and the wrong single pointed. It will take you to the goal. Asha, that is the effect. I'm saying, what is it in itself? If you're attached to the goal.
Without expectation of result.
Without expectation of results.
Sorry, do you mean that if we have the self as the ultimate goal, that's when you are on the right path?
No, do I mean it's the question is, okay, yeah, let's read the verse. By single pointed devotion, I may be known like this. Known in reality and entered. So by single pointed devotion, you can get two results. One is you could get this whole mental image, or you could find the essence and enter it. Right? So single pointedness seems to give us two results. One is you merge with the self. One is you get these mental images. So I very thinly said the right one and the wrong one. So now, having made such a general statement, right one and wrong one, we need to tell ourselves what is right and what is wrong. So how do you know what is the right one? What is the right single pointedness and what is the wrong single pointedness?
Janki ji, you will feel oneness with everybody, or else you are not on the right path.
Okay, that can be on the wrong one also under some conditions.
The result that lasts long,
yeah,
not
by
the
result,
temporary.
by definition of the right and the wrong in itself. Okay, so the wrong single pointedness is when the mind by itself goes to a particular object or being. The right single pointedness is when the intellect directs the mind towards an object or being. When it goes by itself to an object or being, you get into involvement, you get into trance, you get into mental imagery, you start seeing things, hearing things, because the mind is going by itself towards something. You start seeing it because the mind is going there. It overrides the material world, as it were. I mean, you don't see what is really there, you see what your mind is making you see. That's the wrong one, when the mind goes by itself. But when the intellect directs this, then it's the right one. Because this will take you to self-realization. So while many of you did say attachment, and that is right, in the context, you have to say, what is the difference? Otherwise, we could throw words around, right?
But for a person on the path of Bhakti Yoga, even if the mind is single pointed and leading to that, then it's okay, no?
It's okay means it's not for us to say okay or not. What we can say is what will happen. You will get all this mental imagery. If the mind goes by itself towards something, you get involved, you go into trance, you get mental imagery, this is what will happen. Whether it's okay or not for us to say.
But if that leads to the final goal?
It depends on what the person does, right? When we're finding cause and effect relationships, we know that this leads to that. X leads to Y. Now, will it lead to the goal? Depends on everything you do. I mean, not one thing. This act will not lead you to the goal. That's for certain. But
How
will
do
you
we
reach
know,
the
you
goal
know?
eventually? Depends on what are the other things you do.
You know, mind and intellect, when we say, they are they're pretty similar. How do we know that what I'm thinking is not mindful thinking and but intellectual thinking, or vice versa? You know, I might think that what I'm thinking is intellectual and it might take me to a direction, whereas it could be a mindful thinking and it could be leading me to the wrong direction.
Yes.
How do I understand the difference?
1 second, Alka. Kalyan, are you done?
Yeah, I got that point saying that it could be leading you or could not be leading you. That is, but the
No, the
distinction.
wrong one will lead you to the wrong one will lead you to this result, and the right one which will lead you to that result. That is what this verse is saying. I mean, I use the word right and wrong. One kind leads you to this result and one kind leads to that result. To get involved is it if your mind is single pointed by itself. To be objective is when your intellect is directing your mind towards the goal. Objective people reach their goals.
Okay, yeah. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so Alka, how do you tell what is the difference? Is this your mind saying it or intellect saying it? If you ask this question, it's your mind saying it. Because intellect always refers to effort. Suppose you say, I have this thought. Is this my mind or intellect? Then it's the mind. Clear. Because intellect implies you put in some effort. You've tried to think about it. You've tried to apply yourself. Mind is sort of an unconscious. Is this your first class, Alka?
Yeah, this is my first class.
Okay, so
Hello.
let's start. Okay, let's start with the definition. What is mind? Mind is called manas in Sanskrit. It represents our emotions, our likes and dislikes, our whims and fancies, the entire irrational side of it. Intellect is discrimination. Reason, judgment, analysis, all of this is intellect. So one part of us feels and the other part of us thinks consciously. Right? So this is the mind of intellect. Now, so you just get a thought, any thought. Okay, this class is so good. This thought is from
Mind.
But if you analyze it, you put an effort and you say, very good, it's the mind, because that's a thought has come. But you analyze it. Okay, I think that this class, it has got X, Y, Z. You thought it out. This is how it helps you reach your goal. You know, there's some effort put behind it. Then you conclude that this class is something I should do. That's your intellect. So how do you know if it's just some thought, any thought, good or bad? Just a thought has come to you. Most likely it's the mind. This is just ballpark, okay? But if you put in effort and you try to figure out what is right, what is wrong, how should I look at this, you put in some effort, then you can assume that at least some thought has gone into it. You have applied your intellect.
Got that. Thank you so much. Very clear.
How did you know about this class, Alka?
Momita referred me.
Okay.
Yes. Yesterday I was sitting with her, so she told me about her sessions, wonderful session, and I'm quite liking it too,
Wonderful.
Intellectually.
Welcome to the class. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
So now, verse 55 said, you become me if you do it in the right action. Sorry, verse 54 said, you can go in two directions. Single pointed in one way will give you this mental imagery. Single pointed in another way will give you the essence. And then, so how do you know how do you go about this thing? What is the method? Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. And then you're through. You achieve universal affection and no affectation. How simple it is, right? What can be simpler? No sangha, no vairi. Hari means enemy. Without enemy. Without enemy, without attachment. And these are two sides of the same coin. And
Janki,
with that-
could you please clarify sometimes I'm hearing Sangha, sometimes I'm hearing Sangarva. Could you please just define that word or just tell me what that word is? that you're
Sangha.
Sangha.
Sangha is one word. Vaira is another word. Sangha is attachment. To be a vairi means to be inimical. Sangha, so you don't need to go into the word. Sangha means attachment and enmity. Attachment and enmity. You can use the two English words. Okay, so that's it with chapter 11, to show that we have not really completed the study of this chapter, but are we'll chant this last verse to show that we have come to the end of it, and then we'll chant the first verse again to show that this is not really the end, but the beginning. Om Tat Sadat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Vishwarupa Darshana Yogo Nama Ekadasho Dhyayaha. The first verse again. Arjuna Uvacha Madanugrahaya Parama Yamathyatma Sammitam Yatvat Yoktam Vachastena Mohoyam Vigato Mama.
Om Janki ji.
You all want to do a question answer summary next time, or would you all like to start with chapter 12?
Summary, please.
Summary, everybody give me a thumbs up for summary, or
Yes, summary. No
summary,
problem.
Q&A, both we can do.
Summary.
Okay, so fine. So summary next Sunday, along with Q&A. If you have any questions also, please send them in.